So I'm going to start with a poem called The Word, and it's about a small, simple word, the word the. The word. I couldn't tell you now what possessed me to shut summer out and stay in my room, or at least attempt to, in bed mostly. It's my dad, standing in the doorframe, not entering, but pausing to shape advice that keeps coming back. Whatever is matter, must enjoy the life. He pronounced this twice, and me, I heard wrongness in putting a the before life. In two minds, ashamed, aware that I knew better, though was stuck inside while the sun was out. That I'm native here in a halfway house, like that sticking word, that definite article, half right, half wrong, still present between enjoy and life. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly check the time. And it was really moving for me to receive the prize. I'm not going to talk too much because I'll cry again. But one of the many things that was moving about it was I spent a stupid amount of time on tiny little poems. And I've often thought, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And, it kind of is for me. But when Michael said on the Zoom call that, a panel from Yale University had been looking at these poems for a long time, before he got to the end of a sentence, I was crying, Anyway, this is one of those little poems that took far too long. It's a sonnet, and I tried to get an image of trees that were covered in spider webs in Pakistan, and the floods in Pakistan are back, but the floods a while ago trapped spiders in trees and created these beautiful images of webbed trees that were kind of like shrink wrapped in silk. And it made me think of lots of things. It made me think, because my mum is white and English and my dad's from Pakistan, and this image seemed very English to me. It reminded me of Miss Havisham in Great Expectations, and the wedding dress and the veil and time being frozen and how she never gets married, and so, but it also is in Pakistan, and I was trying to put these thoughts about gravity and these worlds coming together and making it rhyme like a sonnet, and it was all too much. Anyway, I even put a bit of physics in there as well. But spider trees, Pakistan. English mist in subcontinental sun. The withered veil at Miss Havisham's house. Think of that thought in the brain of John Donne, scrawling, in that the world's contracted thus. Think of holding spells, catching up with time, the way snow floods the sky in slow suspension. Think, though it's a stretch, like shockhead Einstein, wedding time and space as lacework tension. With floods in Sind and their tenants long stranded, these trees are warped globes, veiled spectres of silk. It's these photos that have me, stretched, extended, glued to a web page since opening a link, racking my brain for lines to catch how they carry the gravities of home, worlds I can't marry. And I'm going to read a poem that I read earlier on, so apologies to anyone that was in the nice audience before. This is what I do to you when you're nice to me. But it's called The Lyric Eye, and it's about looking at a portrait of Shakespeare in London, and I could see my face reflected in the glass, and I had lots of thoughts, and one of them was, because I was superimposing my face on his and giving him a slightly, different haircut and things, and it made me think of how the reader and the writer share a head and an identity when we catch up with each other despite our differences. And I used the term half-caste in this poem, but it's cast without the E, so it's like a cast of a shadow. The lyric I. I've stood at your portrait at different times, scanned my own face on and off in the glass, a cloud eclipsed, vaguely before or behind you, half cast, at a loss. Even the gloss back then at school left me looking this blank, in the dark, not on the same page as you. But when I stand here, almost in a blink, I can place my eyes glazed over your stare. Let you lend me your ear, your famous cheek. Let the flare of your nostril stretch thin air. Even try on your earring from 5 feet, 4 centuries apart. I swear by this lapse, the light on your mouth seems cast half on mine when I borrow the line between your lips. I'm going to read a newer poem that I wrote for the anniversary of George Floyd's death, and I came at this slightly to the side of the subject. I wrote about Minneapolis, and I looked it up, and apparently there used to be an H in Minneapolis, and the H was dropped. So it was Minneapolis, and that was my way in. And this is called Watershed. From Minneapolis, ripples grow and grow and grow. Minneapolis. That polis whispers of police, but speaks of the city. The same word going back. Minnehaha is Dakota for waterfall, chains of water in a shocking drop. In the suburbs of a word are old outpourings, arrested sounds. But there is no H now in Minneapolis, city of waters, quiet as a ghost, that H, quiet as watching clouds. In the state of Minnesota, state of sky reflecting water, waters ripple wider, wider with the Mississippi River. If breath has a letter, then that letter is H, ha, the soft H at the end of breath, breath like a dry river. Not hard as streets now hallowed, rules that ring hollow, but the H that alters what stands before it and makes hard endings not stop but breathe on, like the H in watershed, or the H in worth, or the H in death, or the H in birth, or the H in mother, mother. Last words of a British soldier on the ground near to death. Is it wrong for me to go there, from the wetlands of French trenches to Minneapolis, water city, from a century back to a lockdown May 2 years back, from a man who's white to a man who's black? Should I go quiet as a cloud in water, quiet as that old lost H in the heart of Minneapolis, or sound out like the H in human? Water wears the uniform of chevrons and ripples. Isn't it the job of ripples to move outward and wider? Isn't it the job of rivers to enter other mouths? Matter and mother are one word going back. Is one mother, mother, or mama, mama, mama? A grown man's cry to the first source, the birth of breath, not the same cry, not a matter of the same worth as another, as another, as another, as another. And I'm going to end with a poem for my mother, who was another reason why I cried when I got the news from Michael. And this is called Prayer. First heard words delivered to this right ear. Allahu Akbar, God is great, by my father in the Queen Elizabeth maternity ward. God's breath in man returning to his birth, says Herbert, is prayer. If I continued his lines from there, from birth, a break Herbert chimes with heaven and earth, I'd keep in thought my mum on a Hereford hospital bed and say what prayer didn't end. I'd say I made an animal noise, hurled languages hurt, at midday when word had come. Cancer, now so spread, by midnight her rings were off. I stayed on at her bed. Earlier, time and rhythm flatlining, I whispered, thank you, I love you, thank you. Mouth at her ear, she stared on, ahead. I won't know if she heard. Thank you.